Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Perillo, and I need to tell you why I cannot recommend an iPhone 10 outright. In fact, I don't know if I'll ever be able to recommend an iPhone 10 if it continues to be everything I see it to be. Now, I also understand I've told you the story about not wanting the first iPhone that they ever produced, and I learned that you kind of have to pick it up to be able to use it. But here's the thing. I've already used an iPhone 10. How? Because I've used an iPhone. Every iPhone that they've released over the past 10 years. I've used pretty much all of them. I know iOS. I know the iPhone. I know how it works. I know its quirks. I know its bugs. I know its issues. I know its slop. I know the iPhone 10. So then when you layer on top of everything I already have an issue with in relation to iOS, you add on top of that the glaring UI problems with the iPhone 10 specifically. When you add on top of that the glaring usability problems, UX problems, specifically a visual UX problem, and how the UI has to accommodate and doesn't do it very well, this gigantic UX problem at the top of the screen known now as the notch, I can tell you from a distance, I don't want that. I don't care what features you pack into it. I don't care how fast it is. I don't care if it's got the amazing widgetosity or whatever word you want to make up. I don't care. I can tell you that is just bad design. Bad. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and follow a few developers. Go ahead and follow a few UX people. Go ahead and follow a few UI people. Get their feedback. Don't listen to me. Get their feedback. They can tell you at a distance it is not a product that just is aesthetically pleasing to some of us. I don't know how many of us. I don't. I also have to make a note that it's not about the popularity of the product. I've said this before. I'll say it again. It doesn't matter how many people use it. That's not indicative of success in any measurement in terms of the design of the product. Successful maybe financially, right? But it's not something that I think is a marker of what makes a good product. And I on that note, I want to begin by showing you a couple of examples. One I showed you in a video I just recorded about why the iPhone 8 Plus may be my last iPhone, if not a last iOS device. I'll start with that tweet. Thank you again, John, for tweeting this to me this morning with Marquez Brownlee's hand. The status indications flip sides when Control Center is pulled down, ? With addition of nasty spacing from the top of the screen. Thank you for tagging me on this. And again, I have to give props to Marquez's hand. The MKBHD. This is the example. This is on the iPhone 10. So if you can't tell, I mean, the image is not that great. When you have without the Control Center pulled up or down or whatever gesture it is now, the status indicators for battery life and signal are over here on this side. Not on this side. This side has the time, but when you swipe down to get to Control Center, the status, the symbols for signal suddenly jump back over to the left, the classic position for them. And then the battery stays over on the right, the classic position for it, and the Bluetooth symbol. I mean, so Apple didn't see this? Like, are they going to fix it? Did they see it as something that needs to be fixed? If you don't think that's fit and finish, your standards are far lower than mine, like far. That is that's a nice UI, horrible UX. Well, okay, I can't say nice. I say nice, not great UI, because again, you have to point out the distance in padding with the visual elements. It's incongruous. That much is painfully obvious. But it's just the lack of detail, that went into this particular example, and it's not just one. iOS is, and I've said this for years, death by 1,000 cuts. That's just one example that I've seen recently, specifically with the iPhone 10. Here's another one that was on my radar. Let me go ahead and pull this up. This just looks unoptimized, right? This is landscape mode. Who uses landscape mode? I'll just use portrait mode. Okay, but I've seen just as many issues with portrait mode. Not only do you have to deal with the notch here, but look at that. Look at the bottom part here. Let's see if I can get it to reflect just right. It just looks padded. It looks incongruent. It doesn't look. The elements don't look spaced well. And maybe the app needs to be optimized. That's possible, but I've seen similar types of views in default iOS app experiences. It just looks like wasted space. I mean, who cares if you got a larger screen, allegedly larger screen, or the whole surface is a screen if you can't effectively optimize part of it? So that's just another example. Landscape mode I'll give you, but I've seen similar examples in portrait mode. I've seen just as many wasted pixels, specifically in that bottom space, and even in the top space to accommodate the ear distance. It's just, the ears are what they are referring to as what flanks the so-called notch, and that may not even be the accurate term. So here's a developer trying to figure out how to accommodate the landscape and the notch. Now watch what happens. So which one? Tell me which one looks better in landscape. That one, that's how Apple wants you to do it. That's what they say, embrace the notch. Or this one, the one that they've basically mitigated the notch on. You tell me. I mean, I can tell you what I've seen. Moreover, here's another example here. Where's pause here? Okay, so one example. Guess I don't... need to pause at the right spot. See what I'm saying down there? It's just a lot of padded to accommodate the lower turd. I don't know what you would call that. The gesture bar to swipe up to get back to the home screen, which is going to cause issues. Anyway, like you're scrolling through an app, and all of a sudden it exits? What happened? Did it crash? No, you accidentally probably hit this bar. I can say at a distance that's probably going to happen. Apple may very well have mitigated that issue. I don't know. I don't want to find out. But just that, to me, that bottom area just looks like a lot of wasted space. It's just a lot of wasted space. It doesn't look good. In the same issue here with what I pointed out in the previous screenshot example. Let me see if I can pause it at the right spot. Again, the same kind of wasted space here in this bottom area of the menu bar just seems like a complete waste. Moreover, that element up there looks very cramped. That one right there, in fact. Let me go back, and I'm just going to point out what I see. Even in the default view, this element here, edit, still looks kind of awkward just floating there. Landscape mode is not ideal, but then again, I just don't see that this portrait mode looks ideal either. So that's another example. Then, did I warn everybody this is going to be a long one? It's going to be long. Hey, I don't know if we've met. I'm Chris Perillo. I love Star Wars and talking about things that I seem to understand. That's the other tweet. There's one more to get to. Oh, no, that may have been it. That's the third one. Oh, the other one I was going to point at it's a parody video basically demonstrating what I said may happen as you're scrolling in a web page or an app, and then you suddenly flick that bar and then you exit out of the app. If you think that's a good user experience, maybe you've known nothing apart from bad user experiences. I'm fairly confident it's going to have the propensity of happening, but I don't know. I can't say it has or it will. I can just say that based on what I know about gestures and touchscreen devices, and specifically user behavior, and knowing what I've known, just sometimes in trying to get Control Center to swipe up on existing phones and over and over again being unable to do it, I think it's going to be even worse on a largely gesture-driven phone. So I got pulled into the Mac forums thread, as I alluded to in the video that I just did. And effectively they were talking about the big video that I did, saying that the iPhone X is a UI and UX catastrophe. And I'm very happy to say many people agreed. Some people didn't. Duh. That's obvious. But a lot of them just came after me personally, talking about how my voice is horrible. It is. How my videos are horrible. They are. How I'm irrelevant. I am. They came after me personally rather than addressing the topic that I wanted them. I'd rather have people talking. Don't talk about me. I'm a nobody. And I even said that. I came out and said that in the I jumped into the thread. But I wanted to share with you what I wrote. It's on my Facebook page, because no one reads blogs anymore. And I'm just going to read some of the points that I tried to make. The first one was like, this isn't about ego. Don't talk about me. Talk about this. Talk about the iPhone X and what you're thinking, and specifically counter my arguments with examples of why I'm not coming out of a place of fact or truth. This isn't so much about opinion. This is about truth. Fact. Now, truth is relative. Fact. I showed you some examples of how bad this can be and is. To the second point, I'm actively pushing the conversation around iPhone X forward because it seems that no other Apple or tech media outlet or pundit is giving it the attention it deserves, that I believe it deserves. All I see are nerds falling over themselves over this spec and that spec while glossing over the glaring issues that can't be mitigated so easily in software. I say this because I want these products to be better for me. I need these products to be better for me. This kind of stuff does not come out of a place of hate. I hate what's being done, but because I know it could be better. It's been better. And so then keep in mind, this is a big one. A product from Apple is perceivably more than just a single piece of hardware. It's hardware that works well with well-implemented software, design, and features inside a seamless ecosystem of experiences to create a cohesive, well-polished, well-executed experience in an archipelago of devices. If you remove usability from the equation in any of them, the ecosystem breaks. If you remove beautiful, intelligible software design from any of them, the reason you were probably drawn to Apple in the first place is moot. Without a cohesive user experience, UX, you have a completely worthless piece of hardware. Period. It's a flat fact. Try to use a good piece of hardware with a poor piece of software. Try it. It's easier to use a poor piece of hardware with amazing software than it is to use a great piece of hardware with poor software. Case in point, the first iPhone. For years, it was the iPhone got lambasted because it was under-spec'd, and it didn't keep up with this feature and that feature. But it was just well implemented, and the iPhone succeeded because of that. Now the iPhone is completely different. It's gone a completely different path. It's the antithesis of the iPhone that was given to us the first time, and all the way up until iOS 7. 4. Solid hardware running on poor optimized software is a product that the others get made fun of for making. Remember the Moto 360? Remember everybody made fun of that area on the screen, the cutout? I made fun of it because I'm like, who would buy that? Why would you buy a circular screen with this part of it that is just non-existent? It's horrific. The flat tire, who would want that? I don't want that. I question the judgment of someone who does, honestly. I do, because it's like, would you give up, dude? Apple users would be making fun of other companies. If Google did the notch and the floating bar and allegedly bragging rights for having a quote unquote full screen experience, the whole screen, Apple would be making fun of them. All the fans would be making fun of them. That is why Android is inferior. Oh, jolly good. Apple knows what they're doing. But Apple did it. So if you were being honest with yourself, some people can't be, there's a cognitive dissonance at play that on the scale that I just cannot comprehend. Apple's doing something right now that if you were a believer in what Apple creates with design and user experience and user interfaces and amazing ecosystems, this should appall you. If you're going along with this hook, line, and sinker, you're playing into their hand. I mean, I'm not saying it's nefarious, but I'm saying they're trying this. They're seeing what they can get away with. You know what it started with? I can't pull it, but it started, with iOS 7 and software. But this Magic Mouse, right? The charging port is on the bottom. Do you know how many times I've forgotten to charge this thing? Even though, it warned me, it's gonna die, and then it dies. Because I can't use it when it's charging. Oh, but it just charges in 5 minutes. By the time I'm done, I'll just walk away from the computer and come back later. Who's going to sit around 5 minutes to charge up a mouse? Ain't nobody got time for that. I mean, that, if you want to know, well, it's just the iPhone X. No. Apple's been testing the waters for years. Or maybe they haven't been testing the waters. Maybe they just generally don't have a direction as far as intelligible design of hardware in conjunction with software and experience is concerned. I don't know. I legit don't know. But that's the kind of thing that you would expect from another company. I hesitate to name any other names. That's not what Apple does. The iPhone 10 is not what Apple does. But it is now. So, anyway, if you made fun of other companies for really not even bold designs and moving the ball forward, but just questionable usability patterns and user experiences, you're not in the market for an iPhone 10. Because then everything that you believed before, everything that you said before about the other companies, it's irrelevant. You've lost your gravitas. It doesn't hold weight anymore. Because then you're on a team. Us versus them. That's not how it works. If it's us versus them, it's the user versus the people who make things for the user. It's us versus them. Specs, in this sense, become irrelevant when a poorly optimized software experience is on a good piece of hardware. Specs become irrelevant. User experience isn't a feature you can easily document in marketing materials. You can have the world's fastest, unusable device for bragging rights, I suppose. You can have the world's best camera lens on a device that nobody wants to use, or that it was just designed poorly. If you want a poorly designed product, and apparently a lot of people do, and I'm sure a lot of people will, I think it says a lot about you. I think it says a lot about where you place a value in design. To me, it's everything. If it's not marketing, you know what good marketing is? A damn good product. That's what marketing is. 5. We didn't just... Yeah, I'm on 5. I think I got 15 points here. We didn't just get this iPhone 10 nightmare overnight, as I suggested here. I have a lot of asides, as you can tell. Apple has been relatively directionless with software design since the first beta of iOS 7. It never gets better with revisions. It never gets addressed with revisions. We just see more features piled on top of, as of yet, polished features. The result is a cacophony of well-documented slop, misaligned elements, dropped frames and scrolls, unpolished animations, et al. And it gets faster. Sometimes it gets faster. Sometimes the slop gets faster to see. It's true. On certain devices, like with the ProMotion iPad that I'm using here, the slop is still there. Still drops frames. Just drops frames faster. 6. This is not a tempest in a teapot. The whole, why is Chris stirring up trouble? You troublemaker. You go back to your talking about anything that I agree with. That's the funny thing. People say, they get mad. They say, well, the reason why you're doing this and your channel's this and you're this, that, and the other thing is because you don't talk about tech anymore. So then I talk about tech. You need to sit down and shut up. Okay. This isn't a tempest in a teapot. This isn't clickbait. This isn't Chris venting for the sake of venting. This is Chris saying, dude, the emperor has no clothes. Chris has been talking about, I shouldn't talk about myself in the third person. I've been talking about this stuff for years, hoping it would get better. By venting, I've solved problems. Maybe not from Apple, but I can tell you Google has listened to me at least once. I got the 15 frames per second restriction on iOS lifted into a full 60 frames per second a few years ago by sending a tweet. Not even to Google. It's just that then an engineer caught it and said, yeah, we restricted Google Maps on iOS to 15 frames per second to save battery life. And what are you talking about, battery life? This is a couple years ago. I'm like, lift it. It's a horrible experience, 15 frames per second. The very next revision, minor revision, didn't even get announced in the release notes or anything. Google Maps now runs at least 60 frames per second because I took the time to vent. If you want a 15 frame per second product, knock yourself out. I don't. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted a better product, and I got one. Because you don't make products better by being complacent. You don't make products better by not stirring the pot. You make products better when you perceive there to be issues and you bring them up. It's not about Chris, needing to lay off the coffee, because this, by the way, is green tea. I'm not drinking coffee at the moment. Haven't been for a few months since going vegan. It's about just being passionate and understanding a good user experience and knowing where it fails and falls short. And everything in me is screaming that this iPhone 10, as they've laid it out, as they've promoted it, is definitely not for me. I believe it's a disaster. Even if it's a success in the marketplace, I still believe it's a usability disaster. I still believe it's replete with all the iOS slop with things piled on top of it. This is intended to be Apple's new direction. This isn't a tempest in a teapot. If that doesn't wake you up, then I'm not sure you're someone who appreciates what a good user interface or user experience can be. Certainly, the UI and UX experts I've been following for some time recognize this as a train wreck for for infinite reasons. Unless they're so invested in their belief in what Apple once was that they can't see that the emperor has no clothes. You don't have to believe me. It's just Chris Perillo. He's just going to spout off. Fine. Don't believe me. Don't listen to me. Don't read this. Don't. Go do your own research and then decide for yourself whether the experts are wrong. There's a whole lot of that going around lately. Yeah, I can't believe the experts because, apparently they're elite because they know their subject matter. Yeah, that's product of good education there. 7. If Apple is pushing the notch, as seen in their developer documentation, as a key visible differentiator, then suggesting that UX and UI are taking a backseat to visuals that serve no purpose in the device's function. I'm sorry, they are suggesting. I misspoke as what I wrote. They're suggesting that the notch is more important as a key differentiator in branding an Apple-branded device than the usability of said product, in the design of said product, in the UI on said product. They are all taking a back seat because of branding? What? I mean, I get it. That's the human interface guidelines update saying embrace the notch. No. I've said it in social. I'm trying to keep language clean here, but F the notch. No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. No. I don't accept that. Not from you, not from anybody. I don't care who. You could slap a Company X title on, I'd still say, what the hell are they thinking? I hope whatever they're smoking in California is legal. Or it's just... I said the same thing about other platforms and other products and other companies too. But that's the thing. This is not a temporary thing. Until they can solve the problem of getting all that stuff under the screen and workable and usable, you potentially are going to have to deal with a notch. I'll have none of it. Because of a key differentiator in their products versus they don't want it to look like that. I'm gonna say something that either is going to annoy the hell out of you, just like everything else I say, or it's gonna start to make some sense. The difference between an iPhone and a not iPhone isn't the hardware. It's the software. Ask the app developers. How many of them are there? Millions? What makes the iPhone? Ain't the hardware. It's the software. It's always been the software. The hardware is merely a platform for the software, the platform itself. If the software was not good, do you think a great piece of hardware would have taken off? I think history has shown that that's usually not the case. If the software is horrible, no one wants the hardware. Apple's tilting into that realm by putting UX and UI in their software in a completely different realm to sell more hardware. They've got it backwards. The entire ethos that Steve handed to them was just the opposite of what they're doing right now. The opposite. Why does that upset me? Because these are things that we use. These are things that we want to use. These are unusable things. The key differentiator between an iPhone and an iPhone has not been the hardware so much as it's been the software. Apple created a foundation suitable for developers. On that point, number 8, developers are going to catch hell for this, not Apple. They're going to see the complaints, not Apple. You can only mitigate the brackish nature of the notch and the floating turd at the bottom to indicate that you swipe up to or do something to get back to the home screen. You can only mitigate that so much. You can't hide it in every app with Apple's intended approach to the problem that they created, Apple themselves. Then, even if you do, you've got other issues that you're going to run into. I mean, even if you can mitigate it. For example, a lot of the response, this is a very short-sighted response to the perceived shortcomings of the iPhone 10. They said, well, you can zoom out on the video so the notch isn't there. Like, okay, but that's not the only landscape scenario. Video is not the only landscape scenario. Well, I don't use landscape all that much. But even in portrait mode, there's a lot of poorly designed elements floating around and creating very awkward padding and spacing and design, and it's just incongruent and not well done. Some things have been well done, like the rounded corners. I mean, wow, that's really neat. But everything else, okay, you try to hide that in every single experience and every possible configuration you can that Apple gave you. And I'm sorry, you can't just say, well, I won't use landscape mode. So you're buying a product that has landscape mode enabled, but you won't use it. Well, I can mitigate it. You can in that app, not another. Wait until you play your first game with the notch. Yeah, maybe it'll melt away. Maybe it will. Notch is still there. You know what? The graphics underneath, the beauty underneath that hideous intrusion is still there. You take a screenshot and it'll be there. So you can get something in a screenshot, but you can't actually get it in the screen. 9, you're using a full screen iPhone, so-called full screen iPhone that doesn't give you the full screen. 10, Apple's coasting on cultural laurels. I apologize. Let me try that again. Apple's coasting on cultural laurels in the hopes that people will just learn to love it. Even my wife said, well, I don't have a choice. That's the new iPhone. I'm like, yeah, but they also have the 8 Plus and the 8. But everyone's focused on the 10 as the big. I'm like, but the other ones are just as good, if not better, in so many ways. Usability being one of them. The iPhone 8 Plus goes toe-to-toe with the 10 on so many of the hardware features. Not all of them. But unfortunately, there. I wouldn't even say it's Apple's miscommunication. It's a cultural norm that the 10's the latest now, not the 8. The 8's old school. And I think that plays in Apple's favor. It plays against you as a user who may not understand. It plays against someone who doesn't understand. They see the 10 as the beauty product. And that's the thing, is of the 3, the most hideous. The wrongest one. Not because of Face ID, not because of any technologies they put into it, but because of the usability of the product being in question. They wouldn't buy it from another company. Why are they buying it from Apple? Maybe you can answer that question. The only way I can see it is it's they're resting on their cultural laurels. I'm not making a problem saying that. 11. It's not a question of whether or not the iPhone 10 will flop. In fact, it probably won't. People don't know what they want, and they're accustomed to good experiences from Apple. Instead, iPhone 10 is a flop by design. How it was designed, how it was implemented out of the gate. Could they mitigate it in the software? Yes, but we've been down this path. Will they? I don't know. Never buy a product on what it could be or what it might be. Buy it for what it is. I've been saying that for years as well. You don't know if they're going to fix it. They don't know if they're going to fix it. They don't know if it's going to be a big enough issue. And if it's not an issue, why fix it? Even if it's antithetical to everything that brought the product to where it is today. Popularity is never an indicator of quality. Just because more people buy it doesn't mean that it was a well-done product. 12. It's not a matter of having a wait-and-see approach. If you can't see what is clearly visible in Apple's very own demos and documentation before having the device in hand, there's probably no hope. I don't need to touch one to have used an iPhone all these years, to have had bad experiences with questionable design, to see mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake in documented evidence, proof, flat facts, to say this is wrong on top of wrong. This is insult to injury. And it could be better. I just want it to be better. That's it. That's all I want. That's all I want. That is literally all I want. Because then I could go back to talking about things that I actually enjoy. Like Star Wars. Love talking about this stuff. Love. This is a fundamental matter of usability outright. This is not a question. The OLED screen will be amazing, potentially. There's a question of whether it actually will be or not. Some screen folks, screen experts, have suggested it could be a diamond-patterned pen tile, which may not work out very well, after all, for N reasons. The OLED screen will be amazing, potentially, and amazingly stunted by an unsymmetrical design. Or inclusion, whatever you want to call the notch or whatever the proper word for it is. Even, they call it the sensor array. Okay, permaturd. Even in portrait mode, it stands out as well as does the lower software pill-shaped graphic, and not in a good way, as a branding, presence, or even as a functional presence. The function is this is where I get really annoyed. Like, it's not there for a reason. It's there for a reason to give people Face ID and this amazing new technology, but it doesn't blend into the hardware. It stands out like a sore thumb. Like, the function doesn't follow form. The function flies in the face of form. It's not cogent. Like, the feature is, but the implementation isn't. It's not the feature, it's the implementation. Don't justify, this is 13, I'm almost done, I swear. Don't justify your, maybe. Don't justify your decision to buy the iPhone X by minimizing its glaring oversights or dismissing absolutes. You're not doing yourself any favors. If you accept this simply because it's what Apple has made for you, then you're not doing yourself any favors. You deserve a better product. I'm saying it about you, even if you happen to disagree with me, even if you hate me. You deserve a better product from Apple, or anybody. Listen to the people who are trying to make it better for you. Demand it when you plunk down your money on anything. 14. Let me put it to you this way. If you thought the camera lens bump was an issue, on previous iPhones or other manufacturers' devices, or that the lack of a headphone jack was a problem, then this is magnitudes worse. You can ignore the bump. You're using a phone. Are you staring at the camera lens? Maybe if you're cleaning it, but by and large, are you staring at it? No. You could even ignore the lack of a port. It's not there. There's nothing to see, right? Until you actually need to plug in headphones, and you may be using wireless headphones at that point, or you've got a converter cable. It can be mitigated. But you simply cannot ignore the screen, software design, or general usability. Good luck ignoring the screen with Face ID. I'm sure someone will figure it out. They'll figure out how to Face ID their butt. Can't wait for that, to go viral. 15. I've wasted so much of my time, energy, and patience on these matters, and I am the least I'm here to tell you, I am the least qualified person to be pushing back in the first place. Someone quoted Steve Jobs in the Mac Rumors thread that inspired the post here. And I'm paraphrasing, Steve once said, "You don't have to be an expert to recognize something is bad." I'm paraphrasing because even he was paraphrasing, but Steve Jobs also said it's not the customer's job to know what they want. And all of these Jobsisms, all these maxims are very much still at play, because it's the very reason we find ourselves at this frustrating point in time. Yeah, I don't want to be the champion. I'm not saying I'm a champion. I don't want to, I'm tired of tilting at windmills, but I don't want to be leading this. I'm not leading it. I'm just talking about it. I don't want to be the poster boy for this stuff any more than I wanted to be the poster boy years ago for talking about similar types of problems from other companies. Not what I want to do. But nobody else is doing it. Or if they are, they're not doing it loud enough. And I realize they can be loud. But I'm just saying, how are people okay with this? I don't understand. I don't understand. And maybe I know too much. Maybe that's my problem. But like I said, I've been somewhat, not vindicated, but uplifted by seeing the reaction that I got, largely positive. Of course, you also have detractors who just don't like my voice or what I'm saying outright, or maybe they have a stake in it, like monetarily. The success of these things. I do not. By and large, a lot of people are with me on this. Not everybody. And granted, a lot of the people that I would rather talk to are the normies. I'd rather talk to people like my wife. about this kind of stuff and to help them rather than nerds and geeks like you and me. I don't want to talk to the techies. I like most of y'all, but you guys may or may not get it. They absolutely don't. That's why my audience has never been the nerds, never been the geeks. It never has been, unless we're talking about like Star Wars nerds and geeks. That's my audience. That's my community here. That's my community. The nerds and geeks are not my community. Like the tech nerds and geeks, not my community. Never have been. Never will be. My community, if I'm going to offer any direction or advice, is to the people who don't see it, the people who don't understand. It's my job to be the ombudsman. It's my position to be able to explain to them, look, this is what works. This is what doesn't work. This is why. So I wish I had the platform that some of these people did, because damn it, I would use it to help, to educate, to make things better. So they don't get trapped in marketing speak. So that they don't see the worst potential choice in this new array of products as the only choice. I just can't recommend the iPhone X for all the aforementioned reasons. And I don't want to repeat myself from the things that I've said in 2 or 3 other videos that I've recorded over the past day. One response I get is, the iPhone has been boring, or if they hid the notch, or I hate that word. I also hate permaturd, even though I kind of coined it. The sensor array, it's not boring. The phone screen is not boring. If they hid it, it would. I'd be kind of like, okay, I think the 10 is worth considering. But that they didn't, it's like, it's just one more thing. Boring? I'll take boring. If this inclusion is exciting, I don't want exciting. I want usable. I don't want the latest feature. I want a well-implemented feature. I don't need the latest spec. I need a well-implemented spec. And I've always been that way. This is not a new me. This is like me as long as I can remember me in the 44 years I've been on this planet. I'll take boring over visually unbalanced. I'll take it over unsymmetrical every single time. I'll take polish. I'll take a well-polished feature over 10 features that weren't working well, that don't work well, that don't look well, that don't integrate well. Just one. Give me one good one. It's boring. Boring. It would look boring. It would look boring. It would look like everything else. No. It'd still be an Apple product. You know why? Because it's running Apple software. The only company that can run Apple software is Apple. That's what makes it a good product. Boring. Give me a break. You may be bored, but that's not boring. It's functional. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's balanced. It looks good. Is it everywhere we want to be? No. Is it going to change in the future? Absolutely. That's how technology works. But you know what? You don't have to get the latest thing. You don't have to get the newest thing. You don't even have to accommodate it. The technology is always going to move forward. This is obviously going to change. But we're not talking about the future. We're talking about now. The choice you have to make now. The choice you may need to be making over the next couple of weeks. You may think I'm crazy. You've probably already written me off. Hell, that probably happened when I was first complaining about iOS 7. That was, let's see here, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 5 years ago. If you do the math. I'm horrible at math. At least that long. No, but Chris is just Don Quixote. Chris, you're just seeing things. I don't see it. It doesn't exist. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Maybe now you get it. What I've been saying all this time, that Apple's quality control is gone. Their systems have changed. I think there's been a brain drain at Apple. I don't have any empirical evidence, but there's no other explanation in terms of what they're doing with software. So I've got a couple other points here, but I've already made these points, so I don't want to belabor them. Thanks again for watching these very long videos. I've got a lot to say, and I can't just break them down into 3-minute chunks. Dude, if you want something brief, go to Twitter. It's 140 characters, okay? You want short videos, go to another channel. That ain't me. That's not my channel, okay? Like, I'm not going to apologize for being me. You don't like it? Okay. But I can't just bite-sized chunks. I can't That's not me. I know, it's better suited for a podcast. So turn me on and then carry your phone around not looking at it, especially if you have a damn notch. I love you. I appreciate you. And may the force be with you.